Good afternoon. Welcome once again to the Gain Line, Wales Online's live Rugby World Cup show. Plenty on the agenda today as we look at Wales World Cup quarter-final opponents, potential quarter-final opponents, of course. We'll also be hearing from our man in Japan, and we'll be taking your questions as always, so please do get them sent in. Rugby correspondent Andy Howell is here to look at them. Before that, we're going to talk about France, the game we've seen this morning, France-USA, which was an interesting one, Andy, wasn't it? I mean, just until, was it 10, 12 minutes to go, there was 3 points in it. They came through in the end, but some scathing criticism of the French, and of course they're the team that Wales appear most likely to play.
Yeah, that's right. Wales set to win their group, and then it'll come down to the England, Argentina, French group on seedings. You would expect France to finish runners-up the current table, and that would mean them taking on Wales. However, if that happens and they play against Wales like they did today for 67 minutes, it'll be a no contest. Wales will walk over because it was a typical lazy French performance. They just thought they had to turn up to win. And then one of rugby's greatest ever players, Sean Fitzpatrick, New Zealand legend, has waded into him.
He was brutal, wasn't he, on the TV?
Certainly was, wasn't he? He called them spot little brats, lazy, and he picked on Louis Picamol, the giant French number 8, for really been seen in the game, his attitude. And do you know what I think summed up the French performance? After the match, Picamol is on a pitch with his 2 children parading around it as though they just won the World Cup. That sums up the French for me. But of course, you cannot write them off in the rest of the tournament. They got Tonga next. It could be another lackadaisical performance from them, but you expect them to win that. And then against England, they might turn up. So you never know. But you know, they summed up everything that's been bad about French rugby these last sort of 10, 15 years.
Yeah, still plenty of rugby to be played in that pool. So out of the 3 teams, England, France, Argentina, who are in the mix, who would Wales most like to play, do you think, in the quarterfinals? Would it be the French?
Yeah, or Argentina. Yeah, you fancy that. Looking at that pool now, if Argentina, England this Saturday is going to be a huge match. If Argentina actually win that game, there's every possibility they will go through at least as runners-up when you look at the current situation with the bonus points. So, you know, France would have to beat England then, and England and Argentina would both go, France and Argentina would go through at the expense of England. So Argentina are still in the group, and you know, they give New Zealand major problems in the rugby championship, and should have beaten Ireland, should have beaten the French. So that is going to be a massive game on Saturday morning. I'm so looking forward to it. But if England prevail, then they're setting up a group decided over the French.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that, Andy. Now, Wales have been holding a press conference overnight in Otsu. I caught up with our man in Japan, Matthew Southcombe, after he heard all the latest, and here's what he had to say.
Good evening, Matthew. Nice to speak to you. Nice to see you sat on your balcony there. Nice view behind you. How are things out in Japan?
Yeah, it's lovely. To be honest, it's a lovely part of town, as you can see from the view behind me. But it's, even though it looks beautiful, it's the first time we've seen some rain down here, and we'll come on to that in a little bit. But no, it's a beautiful little spot. It's a bit quiet, and everybody's having a few days to sort of chill out. The pace has sort of dropped out of proceedings a little bit after a very intense week in Toyota City and then up to Tokyo. So I think the players and the journalists, to a certain degree, are grateful to have a bit of a change of pace for the next few days.
Yeah, indeed. I know there's been a press conference overnight. What's the latest in terms of injury news on a few players that we've heard?
Yeah, Robin McBride was up for press this morning, and there's not a lot to sort of report really, because as I said, the players are having some time off at the moment. But Ryan Elias was in a boot recently, a protective boot, but that was only something minor, and he took part in training, optional training today. The other one's Hadley Parks. His hand didn't give him any problems during the game against Australia. Obviously, he had that little fracture in there, and his hand was pretty heavily taped up. And Robin McBride sort of chuckled at my question and said, well, it didn't seem to bother him when he was gathering that high ball and scoring the try. So all good on that front. And Adam Beard has obviously arrived in camp as well, and is continuing to get up to speed. And hopefully he'll be in contention for stats. That's pretty much on a knife edge at the moment.
Yeah, you mentioned optional training there. How's that working exactly? Is there much of a take-up for that? Yeah,
so basically the players came here and they were given a couple of days off, I think 4 days in total, until their next training session. But this is their second day in Otsu, and the third day in Otsu, and the players were given the option of going training today. It's pretty much, there's no rugby session, there's no physicality involved really. It's just running or weights or skills or whatever the individual wanted to do, really. And like you said, it wasn't forced upon them. If they didn't want to go, or if they were carrying niggles, then they didn't have to. But we were sat in reception getting on with some work as the squad left, and I have to say the majority of the group took up that offer to go and train. There were a few didn't go because perhaps a few niggles or whatever from the game, because it was pretty physical, as we said, over the last sort of week with Georgia and Australia, who didn't go to training, and that's their prerogative as well. But yeah, the bulk of the squad went and did their little bits and bobs, and now they've come back and gone off to do some other things with their family or whoever else is down here.
Yeah, I know you've had a good sit down with Ross Moriarty over the last day or so. How is he feeling about his being dropped from the side? Obviously been a bit of a mainstay in the Wales team for the last year or so, but not in the team at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he started, I can't remember the figure, but he started something like 28 out of his last 29 tests or something like that. So it's a very difficult period for him, really, being on the bench in the last two at this World Cup. The two openers, of course, Aaron Wainwright forcing his way in. We got the impression, as Warren Gatland said in the press conferences leading up to the Australia game, he wasn't best pleased with the decision, as you can imagine, and he's the kind of character who will get fired up by that, and that certainly came across in his interview. And Aaron Wainwright said on the eve of the Australia game that Moriarty was at the forefront of that edge that was in training last week, and as we know, there was a bit of blood spilled as well as things got a little bit physical, which obviously stood them in good stead because they went on to win. And there's a great line in that Moriarty interview when he sort of says, when we have to smash each other in training, we just smash each other. And it's a lovely sort of simple way of looking at the game, and that's the way he plays it. As I wrote in the piece, he just hits one person, get up, and finds the next person. And he's not enjoying being on the bench, as nobody would, but he's very aware of the fact that he's still got a job to do in this team. He's still got a role to play as well, so he's doing everything he can to do that.
Yeah, just finally then, Matt, you're in Otsu, which I imagine is a world away from Tokyo. The players are having a lot of downtime this week. What have they been up to exactly? How are they filling their time?
Yeah, there's not a great deal to do here, to be honest. Any player and management that we spoke to in press conference or just in the lobby of the hotel, just catching up, is nobody really knows quite what there is to do around here. They've got a board up in the team room with a few options for them, I believe, to go off and do different things. But it's just about what they normally do, really, hunting out coffee shops. A lot of the players in the squad are coffee fiends and love all that sort of stuff. Been a bit of fishing going on as well, and there's a little boat cruise last night that was put on by the local government just to welcome the squad and the management to Otsu, and that got a little bit interesting when some inclement weather sort of rolled over the lake behind me. And but some of the players have got families and wives and girlfriends here as well, so it's very relaxed. And as I've said previously, it's kind of a Warren Gatland trademark now. He's done it on both Lions tours, where he has this little week whenever they've got a break in a test series or in a tournament like this, he takes them out of the bubble. And to be honest, you walk around the village or the town here, and you wouldn't know that there's a World Cup on in this country. You are well and truly out of the bubble. It's worlds away from Tokyo, which is quite nice, because you can't operate in that environment for too long because it's absolute chaos in Tokyo. But it's quiet, but I think they're just sort of relaxed and enjoying the little break from the hustle and bustle of the tournament.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, Matt, thanks for your time. We won't keep you any longer. We'll catch up in the next couple of days. Take care.
Take care, John.
Apologies for the slight technical difficulties we had early on in that clip. He looks like he's having a nice time out there, Andy, doesn't he? A nice little balcony he's got there.
Oh, it looks beautiful over there, doesn't it, John? And he's wearing his red shirt. I haven't seen that before. But I wonder if he's acquired that from Wales Choir.
Possibly. You mentioned there about Ross Moriarty. I think it's probably maybe the interesting figure in this Wales squad at the minute. A mainstay for so long, and then suddenly dropped really as the World Cup starts. We hear he's been smashing into people in training, causing a bit of damage. Do you think they might give him a chance, a start against Fiji to prove he should be in that quarter-final team?
Yes, I do. And if I was in Gatland's shoes, I definitely would, because Ross is clearly champion at the bit to give it a go and smash it into Fiji. He needs to start that match, and he needs a huge game to put himself in the frame to start in the quarter final, because Wales, to me now, certainly needs to qualify.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Let's move on to the questions. Then we've got a few from over the last 24 hours or so on various social media channels. One from Dave Kitson about officials, but not in a negative way necessarily. He says, who has been the best referee at the Rugby World Cup, do you think? And will Nigel Owens get the final? Who's the favourite for the final?
Well, I hope Nigel Owens doesn't get the final, because I want Wales to be in it, which of course would disqualify him. I don't think they'll give it to Nigel 2 in a row. I think if England fail to make the final, Wayne Barnes will get it. It's his swan song, and I must say Barnes has been the most impressive referee at this World Cup.
What particularly about him has been...
Well, we've had all these decisions, all these sightings, etc. after matches. Referees been indecisive in games. One thing you always say about Wayne Barnes, he's decisive and he's prepared to make instant decisions, and he's done that already in this tournament. He is an official who's actually improved enormously over the years.
Yeah, what about worst referee? Has there been one who you think has looked out of their depth particularly? Not to pick on anyone really, but
but Ireland, they've got this thing about Angus Gardner, the Australian ref, following the Six Nations match with Wales, and after the match with Japan now, and they claim World Rugby said Gardner has made mistakes. I would actually be, if I was Ireland, I wouldn't be shouting off my mouth, because Gardner could have actually penalised them more. My issue with Angus Gardner, though, he's a bloke who gives like 3 or 4 final warnings before he gives a sin bin in or a penalty try. To me, you should, if it's a penalty try or a sin bin in, give it instantly. First offence.
Okay, fair enough. One here from Mark Evans, who says, what has been the thing that has most surprised you at the World Cup? Be it players, teams, tactics? What's taken you aback?
There's been so much attacking rugby, because the Six Nations and the Rugby Championship to some degree, hell of a lot of kicking, and coaches saying it's so hard to crack defences, it's going to be about the aerial battle, territory and all that. Well, we haven't seen it so far at the World Cup. I know matches will become tighter at the knockout stage, and then when teams cancel each other out, you do get more kicking. But I've actually I thought this had been a wonderful World Cup so far, and every team is trying to play rugby. It's been great. That might be helped by the conditions, the humidity and the heat, because players are probably tiring earlier in matches, so there's more space to attack.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. One here from Terry, who says, which player who hasn't made a mark yet is most likely to grow into the tournament, do you think, be decisive in those knockout stages?
Potentially Johnny Sexton. He missed the Irish defeat over Japan with yet another one of those minor injuries he seems to suffer from.
He hasn't been
all
the same player for a little while now, though, is he? Because of various...
No, he hasn't, because how often does he play rugby? There's always something wrong with him or not, isn't there? But he is, he's the player Ireland look to. He's their driving force. They missed him against Japan, there's no doubt about it. And they need him, Johnny Sexton, to be playing when it comes to the quarter stage. I expect to qualify for that. They need him to be on the top of their game, and he is a player who can respond to the big stages we've seen in the past with the Lions and Ireland.
Yeah, okay, quick one here from Mark Smith as we approach the end, looking a bit further ahead. Which big name players will have to play against Uruguay? So we're expecting probably a pretty much full strength side against Fiji, and then we're expecting mass changes for the Uruguay game. But obviously there are certain players who are going to have to play against Uruguay, aren't there? Yeah,
well, one of the centres in the squad is definitely going to play. Based on the teams Wales have picked for the 2 matches they've already had. Yeah. You'd expect Owen Watkin to play alongside either Hadley Parkes or Jonathan Davis, and
they might not bring George North in.
They could bring George North, but of course George North has played, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So North, what they could consider doing is either playing North or Amos in the centre, if they see one of those as the next cab on the rank if they get centre injuries. I mean, North has played in the World Cup at centre for Wales previously. Amos has played centre a bit for the Dragons, so that is a possibility. But then, of course, it means you're going to have to play more of the back 3 players.
Yeah,
because Halfpenny's going to be in the team somewhere, and it means Adams or North play out wide, or Liam Williams. So you're going to see 2 or 3 of the players who've been starting again.
Yeah. Okay, let's finish maybe where we started. One from Rob, who says, what do you think we've learnt from the French game today? I mean, we covered France particularly at the start, but
France, nothing's changed with France. Mentally, they're all over the shop. They do get up for big games like they did against Argentina, but maybe they're aloof, maybe it's just their culture. But when it comes to playing so-called minor nations, they are not clinical at all. They just switch off.
Okay, thanks Andy, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you once again for all your comments and questions, and indeed for joining us. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Take care.